Well, looking out, I can see who my friends are now. Um, I thought that was a good way to lead off. I also wanted to say that I can tell it's spring because I have my winter jacket with the fleece lining and the two long sleeve shirts, my sunglasses and my other glasses, and I've gone through all of them pretty much today. So, the land bank has a very broad mission. I call it the kitchen sink mission, and you can look through it. I'm not going to list it all for you, but agriculture is definitely one of the most important things that we're concerned with, and conserving agriculture is extremely important for us. Historically, when conservation organizations try and save agricultural properties, they've used conservation easements, and we've done that too. About 3 or 4 years ago, we started to really think about what that meant in terms of not just preserving open space, but also preserving agriculture and keeping farmers on the land, and came to the realization that it's really just not enough, that even with a conservation easement, property in the islands is too expensive for a farmer to buy. So we had to figure some way of trying to get around that, trying to come up with a new model. What we decided to do was to basically hang on to some of the properties that we have bought, which are agricultural properties. Some of those we had slated to resell with a conservation easement and hopefully have somebody farm them. But we decided to go a different direction and take those properties and look at leasing them out to farmers, basically to take the cost of land out of the equation. This is an extraordinarily complicated process, which we've learned. We've had a huge learning curve on it, starting from scratch, looking at leasing programs all over the country, figuring out how to construct it, what it meant, and realizing that even with this, we still have some significant issues. When we have a piece of property and it's got no agricultural infrastructure on it, it may have fertile soils, but for a farmer, they need a lot more than that. Fencing, for example, unbelievably expensive. Securing a water source, having the water right, having a well or a pond or something for irrigation or to water livestock. All that costs money. And then there's the additional infrastructure. Where do you store things? Where do you put equipment? Where does the farmer live? Another big problem for us. So we're still very much in the learning process and trying to figure all of this out. We did our first lease last year on San Juan Island on a property called the King Sisters property. And overall, it was a good first experience for us. However, we realized we spent a significant amount of money getting that ready to farm, and realistically, in thinking about agriculture and what's happening in the islands, things are changing incredibly quickly. We're going from a system where people would grow a small number of crops, hay, beef, maybe sheep, something along those lines. Of course, if you go farther back, there are different crops out there, orchards and peas and things, but we're going from this basically grazing situation to one where people are trying to use the land much more intensively and productively and trying to feed ourselves. I've heard the figure that 1% of the food that's consumed in the islands is actually grown here. Obviously, that's something that needs to change. So when we're thinking about this with land bank properties, what we're trying to do is not just lease out property to whoever we can find to lease it out to do some agricultural activity. We're trying to find innovative things as well. And this has proved a huge challenge for us. There's a gap basically between what we can provide to someone, even taking the cost of land out of the equation, and what they need to do something innovative. And we're struggling with that. We've gone through 2 leases. One was a grazing lease with the potential for the farmer to start a berry crop down the road. The second one we're just in the middle of, and we've actually constructed it as a short-term lease because we're thinking we want to revisit it quickly because we may have some new ideas coming up quickly. But in that case, we've got a farmer who's grazing it, but their cattle, the beef that's produced out of the cattle, is actually going into the school lunch program on San Juan Island. So we're trying to close that loop as well, trying to keep what's grown here consumed here, and also trying to feed into, literally, feed into some of these other processes like the school and senior lunch programs that we've initiated, which are really revolutionary programs. Thank you. Thank both of you for clapping. As we move forward, the next property that we're going to deal with is Coffelt Farm here on Orcas, which we have acquired. We're still in a real estate contract period with that property, but we're going to close on it and have to come up with some idea about managing it. This one actually turns out to be relatively easy for us because it's such a well-established operation. It comes with its own infrastructure. It comes with an existing farmer who will stay on the property with a life estate. And it comes with a cadre of younger farmers. In fact, there are 3 generations now farming on this property, which is another piece of it. Not just trying to do innovative things and get people on the property to continue farming it, but also passing this from the older generation down to the youngest generation. I think we've got some of the oldest farmers in the country on average out here, and it's difficult to make that transition, and it requires not just help in terms of financial getting off the ground, but also the knowledge base, which is critical. If you don't understand how to farm out here and you've got nobody to help you and give you advice, it's even that much more difficult. So in the Coffelt Farm situation, we're looking at, instead of leasing the property outright, basically contracting with a nonprofit organization to take what's there and run it and deliver specific things to the community, the way the farm has delivered food to the community over the years, but building on that also to get some new products. I think it's been a long time since the farm has actually been at the farmers market, and they are here today for the first time in a long while. And Charly Robinson and Justine, ooh, I knew I was going to forget her last name. Pope, thank you. Our 2 new young farmers who are working out at Coffelt's, and Justine's running the market garden, and she's here today selling produce and getting that operation back off the ground. And Charly actually runs the farmers market. So it's a great situation, and it's great to watch that unfold and thinking about it as a model to just pass from one generation to the next, continue operating that farm, and build on its success and create something new. So we're going to continue to work on these things. We've got other properties out there. We're trying to work with the Community Foundation of San Juan Island to come up with some way of bridging that gap that we have between what we can provide and what farmers need to do innovative things. And we're going to keep trying our best to make that happen. So I look forward to working with any and all of you, and thanks for being here today.